I'm happy to be here today and this afternoon, and this is going to be a totally different topic. No structural violence, no answers to some of the really important questions that you guys have been raising related to hospitalization and resuscitation and all of that. As John mentioned, we're going to be switching gears to talk about research. And so I'm here. I'm a member of the leadership team that's part of the Frontiers organization that's out of KU, University of Kansas Medical Center. It's I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go through this, but it's basically a research infrastructure that's available to investigators in the Kansas City region. So not only at KU, this is where we're based, but also to any of the Frontiers partners. But what I'm here specifically to talk to you about is a program that I've been involved with for the past couple of years developing, which is called the Pioneers Community Participation Registry. And so this is a way for people in the community to sign up and express interest and willingness to be contacted for research, to be in research studies, whether they have a specific disease or disorder that they want to access experimental treatments for, or whether they're healthy and just feel altruistic and wanting to be a healthy control or anything in between. This is showing our website, and there's actually brochures around that are being passed out, maybe? Yes, okay, that are being passed out where you could, any of you or any of your family members or any of your friends could actually go to this website now and sign up. So I want to tell you just a little bit about this process. To just talk about the importance of research participant registries, when clinical trials or research is being done in order to find the answer to a medical question. For example, which drug dose works better, which drug is the best one to treat this type of cancer. We need people to be in those trials. And so where those participants come from is sometimes they come from the clinics and the hospital patients of those physician researchers. Sometimes they come from the community. Are we okay? Oh, okay, sorry. You haven't seen this the whole time? I was looking here. Well, okay, the only thing I had first was this slide, which says the website and has one of the pictures from it. Okay, now, but finding research participants can be very difficult. And so when there's delays in recruitment, that means there's delays in finding the answers to the research questions. And in some cases, and actually in a fairly high number of cases, not only are there delays, but there's actually failed trials where the researchers or investigators have a study that's ongoing and it just ends up ending or closing without recruiting sufficient number of people. And so that question is never answered. All the resources that went into developing that study really are wasted, and there's no answer to the question that result from that. Methods to identify participants are typically expensive. If you've ever heard the ads on the paper or on the radio or in the newspaper, or on TV, that's a lot of money being spent by organizations that have that money to spend to recruit people for clinical trials. But as academic medical centers that don't have unlimited funds or unlimited budgets for recruitment, we are trying to provide some resources for helping to promote increased access to people who would be willing to participate in research studies. So that's what the Pioneers website is all about. And so it is an opportunity for people in the community to go to the website. Basically, I'll tell you about the process in just a minute. These next series of slides are really just kind of informational that we share with anyone in the community to try and educate people about clinical trials that are going on, as well as what it means to be a research participant. In the development of this site, we had many different conversations with people, patient advocates, as well as just community members, consumer groups, about the message of our website, about the language on our website, about the look of our website, to try and be responsive to the concerns from different groups about how we were portraying that message and trying to be kind of being open and accepting of anyone who would be interested in participating in research. The way it works is that basically people go to the website, they click on an I am interested button. They actually kind of skipped a step on the slide. They set up an account, so you have to actually have a valid email address, and you set up an account. A link is sent to that email address. and then you electronically sign an informed consent, which is basically describing this enrollment process. There is a survey with a few brief questions about your health. Do you have any diseases? What's your age? That type of information. And then that information is stored. And when somebody has a research study that comes to the Pioneers group, which I'll tell you about how that process works in a minute, and requests information, I do research in exercise in people with diabetes and diabetic neuropathy. So I could go to the registry and query the registry to see how many Pioneers registrants are interested in being contacted for research related to their diabetes or the diabetic neuropathy. And then I would contact those people, and they could say no, they're not interested in that particular study or not at that time, or they might say yes, but it will at least give me an opportunity to contact people directly. And then at that point, they decide if they want to participate. So another feature of our website is actually a listing of active clinical trials. And you do not have to create an account to see that list. You basically go to the website and you can search, you can type in a disease, breast cancer, diabetes, any particular disease, and you'll see a list of the studies that are currently actively recruiting. Now I will say this website and this list is still growing. We have, I think, 20-some studies that are listed currently. At the University of Kansas Medical Center, currently we have hundreds of studies that are actively enrolling. So we're still in the process of populating those trials. But there are trials right now that are recruiting. They're on the website. There's information about the studies as well as who would I contact if I wanted to get information about that study. Again, even without having to register and become a Pioneer first. So we're really trying to provide this. Again, Frontiers is the organization that I'm representing here today. It's a institute that provides research infrastructure globally, and one part of that is related to potential participants. Another function that we have, and that I'm involved in as well, is actually providing oversight, kind of being a gatekeeper to access that information. So if investigators come to request names and contact information of people who are in the Pioneers Registry system, they have to submit a request to a committee of senior investigators that actually shows that they have approval for human subjects, community safety or internal review board safety, and that they have a valid, reasonable study aim and it's scientifically valid. And only then will we release their contact information of the individuals who signed up for Pioneers. And again, having that website and that opportunity for people in the community to go to the website and find that information themselves and advocate for themselves and becoming parts of clinical trials and realizing that there may be multiple, right now I think out of the 20-some studies on our website, there might be 2 or 3 that are for people with diabetes. So somebody with diabetes could go to that website and compare and pick and choose and realize that there are options and there are different types of studies that they may want to participate in. So having that transparency has not previously been available. And again, we're still working on populating all those studies, but that's one of our goals. And I mentioned previously about the community engagement piece and trying to really promote this site to people in the community who might be the ones who would benefit the most from participating in trials. And that we also, one thing that we heard as we were talking to people about our website, we gathered groups of a lot of prior research participants to talk to them about their experience and what was good about it and what was bad about it, and were there ways that we could improve that experience. One thing that we heard very consistently was that people wanted to know what the results of the study were. So when they volunteered for a study, they often had a period of time that they were involved in that study. When that involvement ended, they often got, okay, these were your personal results, this is what you were at the beginning, this is what your test results were at the end, whether it was blood levels or for me, physical fitness or muscle strength. But they never knew what the publications were. They never knew how it contributed to science, how it, that they didn't necessarily know that I went to San Francisco and presented at the American Diabetes Association on that particular study to an audience of hundreds of people from across the country. I mean, so that part of the information loop was not necessarily getting consistently fulfilled by the investigators. And so recognizing that, part of our process has been, if people want to use the Pioneers Registry, if investigators want to use the Pioneers Registry, they have to agree to close that loop and provide that information back to their study participants at the conclusion of the study. Even if the study was not, the hypothesis was not supported, even if the study was not didn't end up being a full, complete paper. It's still, how did it contribute to that investigator's understanding of the disease or the disorder? So I think, given the shorter time, I just wanted to give a little bit of information. I'm happy to take questions, or I'll be around later if there are questions later. Any thoughts?
Let me just get you the microphone. We have a question.
Oh, we do? Okay.
It's really just a short question.
Okay.
Is this going to be available just to the immediate Kansas City area? How far out is the outreach?
There's no limit geographically. Most of the studies that we currently have and that we anticipate having are, based in Kansas City area. I will say all the studies that recruit from Pioneers are in the Kansas City area. But sometimes people, Kansas City or University of Kansas, UMKC, St. Luke's investigators are doing surveys or other types of studies that could actually be done, geographically distant areas, or perhaps people are willing to travel, and we have had some studies with rare diseases where people have traveled from outside the country to Kansas City in order to be part of that study. So there's no geographic limit, although we anticipate that the majority of people will actually be from this region. Just logistically, that would make the most sense. So it's not intended as a nationwide effort, but there's no restrictions as far as people who sign up.
I know there's people all over the United States here.
Okay.
They should take that to their communities and share
Yeah.
information. I think that was
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had to walk out the room, so I apologize if I'm asking a question about something you covered. But one of the things I tried to set up at the beginning of the day was that there are multiple stakeholders in this whole issue of improving and transforming our system, and patients are clearly the most important stakeholder. But can you speak from your perspective in doing as a translational researcher, if I can use that term? Do you think patients should we push this notion that patients have a real responsibility to participate in this research, in research? And I apologize if you've covered that.
Oh, no. I wasn't going anywhere near that controversial.
Well,
do patients have a responsibility to participate in research?
institutions have responsibility to listen to patients and to respond to their needs. We clinicians clearly have a responsibility to do a whole lot better. But what are the patient responsibilities in all of this?
I don't know. I will say that in my experience, there are patients who feel that responsibility very deeply. And, especially in people with chronic illness or rare diseases. We have a very large Alzheimer's disease center where people feel an obligation to help, if not themselves, other people in the future who might have that disease. That said, I think that's far from saying that there would be a mandate, that there should be a mandate or not everyone's at that place. Not everyone
Right.
is able to say that. And, the reality of a clinical trial often is that you have a 50% or some % chance of getting a placebo instead of a treatment. And so people have to feel comfortable with that, and that's part of our informed consent process, is making sure that they understand, with the research process, that's one of the disadvantages. But one of the advantages is that you'll be contributing to science and understanding of what the benefit of that investigational drug might be or that treatment might be.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to be a little provocative here.
Yeah.
And I actually would like my bioethics colleagues here, if they want to, just ask if anybody wants to take on that. Should we be pushing any notion that patients who are vulnerable, obviously vulnerable in a very vulnerable time of their lives with illness, should we be pushing a notion that they have some responsibility that they're not somehow already meeting to participate in all kinds of research that's going to improve the system? Millie, you want to take that on? Or Myra, I know she's never one to shrink from these kinds of questions. Or people, okay, there are actually some hands going up. Yes.
I know for me, it's a personal decision, and I think I would be turned off by being pushed. I was invited, and I think at a certain point in time, you know, for me, it was important to do. But I think that everybody's different, and some patients would gladly participate if they were offered the opportunity to do that. But I would be very uncomfortable pushing or forcing patients to do that at such a vulnerable time. But I do think we need to be more aware of that and invite patients to do that.
Right. Yeah. I got some hands going up here. So I'm obviously being a little provocative here in the way I'm presenting this, but I want to provoke some conversation.
Well, in our group, what we do, we went over this before, and as a patient myself, we don't really have a problem with participating. We just want to know, you know, what is the outcome, you know, of our participation, and give, like she said, don't force us to do it, you know, allow us to do it, and then give us the truth about what we're actually doing, you know, because not knowing what, like you said, if you come in and get a placebo or something, or, you know, things like that, that's what taint the situation.
Sure. So obviously, yeah.
You feel like you're being more helpful if you learn the results too.
Right. So, yes. Man, can you just answer that?
Go Gadget Arms. I think that this ties into the structural violence nicely, actually, in that both with vulnerable patients and with structural violence, within research, and there's a potential out there for a power differential, and I think that we just always have to be aware of that. And so I don't think it's assumed, and I don't think that it's always there, but I think that we always have to be thinking about it.
Yes.
Possibly it is how we actually present it to the patient community. As an RN, I've been part of the Harvard Nurses Health Study for the longest running women's health study in the world. And I felt an obligation as an RN to join that at its inception. Maybe we should present the information to patients as an opportunity to make a difference in the world, and that wouldn't turn them off, so to speak. In the presentation, I think of that would be the answer.
Be critical to how it's received. Right. Sure.
I think these are all great points, and I think you know, this program is not intended to solve all these issues, but the issue of, you know, inviting patients, giving patients the opportunity. I mean, those pieces that I'm hearing you guys say is really part of the incentive for this, that it's not only a physician who might invite you, but an awareness, seeing a brochure, seeing the website, understanding that you are invited, you know, that this is an opportunity that everybody has, and trying to level that playing field. And I also think that researchers should be aware, you know, there are certainly forces in a research world, the competition, the finances, you know, there can be some cutthroat forces that could cause a real power shift and almost coercion. You know, I'm not saying that researchers coerce their participants, but there's certainly that element,
Sure.
Potential element. And so having that awareness, I think, is important, and understanding that when we do informed consent, as many people have said, that we are being very clear about the options, and it is an option. I mean, you know, there should never be, you know, even the informed consent after it's signed says you can stop your participation at any time, and making sure that that's understood and it's not a, you know.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, thank you.